What if everything you believed about success, positivity, and happiness is dead wrong? This is not your average self-help book. This is a slap-in-the-face wisdom you actually need. Welcome to Beyond the Cover, where we go deep into the books that challenge, awaken, and transform. Today, we uncover the no-nonsense truths from The Subtle Art of Not Giving an FCK Asterisk by Mark Manson, a book that throws toxic positivity in the trash and tells you how to truly live by choosing what actually matters. Let's dive in. Chapter 1. Don't Try. The Feedback Loop from Hell. Have you ever felt anxious and then felt worse because you were anxious? Or maybe you felt guilty about being sad, or ashamed because you weren't feeling grateful enough? This is what Mark Manson calls the feedback loop from hell. It's when you feel bad for feeling bad, and that loop just keeps you stuck. The problem with positivity. In today's world, we're constantly told, be positive, feel good, stay happy no matter what. But Manson argues that trying to always be positive is a form of denial. You're denying your real emotions. You're telling yourself, I shouldn't feel this way. And the more you try to suppress those feelings, the stronger they get. That's the feedback loop. You feel bad, then feel bad about feeling bad, which makes you feel worse. Don't try. The chapter opens with a story of Charles Bukowski, a drunk, gambler, and chronic underachiever, who eventually found success late in life. His tombstone reads, Don't try. For Manson, this means, stop trying to be something you're not. Stop pretending everything is okay when it's not. Stop chasing happiness and perfection all the time. When you accept your flaws, your fears, and your failures, you create room for change. What you really need to care about. The truth is, we all care, but we often care about the wrong things. We care too much about what strangers think of us, minor failures, being liked by everyone. But life is short. You only have so many things you can care about in a lifetime, so choose wisely. Manson's core idea: you have a limited number of F***CKs to give, so stop wasting them on things that don't matter. The takeaway: you don't need to be extraordinary. You don't need to be always happy. You don't need to fix every feeling you have. You just need to accept what is real and focus your energy on what actually matters. Stop giving an FCK about everything and start giving an FCK about the right things. Chapter 2. Happiness is a problem. We all want to be happy. That's the goal, right? But Mark Manson says happiness is a problem. Not because it's wrong to want to be happy, but because of the way we think happiness works. The misunderstanding of happiness. Most people believe, if I achieve this, I'll be happy. If I get rich, if I find the right partner, if I become successful. But that formula doesn't hold, because every time you solve one problem, another one replaces it. Happiness isn't something you achieve. It's something you experience through solving problems. The formula for happiness. Happiness comes from solving problems. This is one of the most important lines in the book. You feel good not when problems disappear, but when you're making progress, when you're actively solving the right kind of problems. So, trying to avoid problems or expecting a life without struggle is unrealistic. In fact, avoiding problems makes you miserable because you deny your responsibility and your ability to improve. Pain is inevitable. Manson explains that pain is not optional. It's part of life. Physical pain, emotional pain, social discomfort, rejection, failure. You can't escape pain, but you can choose which pain is worth it. That's the key. For example, the pain of working out versus the pain of being unhealthy. The pain of honest conversation versus the pain of living with resentment. One leads to growth. The other leads to suffering. Choose your struggles. You shouldn't ask, how can I be happy? You should ask, what pain am I willing to endure? What struggle am I willing to commit to? Because every meaningful life includes sacrifice. You just need to choose what is worth sacrificing for. The takeaway: there is no life without problems. There is no success without failure. There is no happiness without struggle. Happiness isn't found in achieving something. It's found in engaging with the process of solving the right problems. The question isn't whether or not you'll struggle. The question is, will your struggle be meaningful? Chapter 3. You are not special. We live in a world that constantly tells us we're special. You're told you're unique. You're destined for greatness. You deserve success, love, happiness, just because you exist. But Mark Manson says, this belief is not only wrong, it's harmful. The tyranny of exceptionalism. There's a growing cultural obsession with being exceptional. Social media, self-help culture, and advertising constantly push the idea that normal is failure. That unless your life is amazing, exciting, or Instagram-worthy, something is wrong with you. But here's the reality. Most people are average. Statistically, most of us are not exceptional. And that's not a bad thing. The danger of thinking you're special. When you believe you're extraordinary, you start to think, you shouldn't have to deal with everyday problems. You're above failure. You deserve more without earning it. This leads to entitlement. There are two kinds of entitlement Manson describes. 1, I'm great, so I deserve special treatment. 2, I'm so broken that my problems are more important than yours. Both are rooted in the same belief. I'm different. But thinking you're special doesn't lead to growth. It leads to avoiding responsibility, ignoring feedback, and blaming others. Accepting your ordinary self. Manson says the path to a better life comes through accepting that you are not special, and neither is your suffering. Everyone has problems. Everyone fails. Everyone struggles with fear, doubt, and insecurity. By realizing this, you stop trying to prove yourself, and you start focusing on real improvement. The freedom of being ordinary. When you let go of the pressure to be amazing all the time, you give yourself space to actually grow. It's okay to be average, because average doesn't mean worthless. It means human. You stop chasing validation and start living with honesty. The takeaway: you are not special, and that's exactly why you're free. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. You don't need to pretend to be perfect. You just need to take responsibility for your life and improve what you can. Greatness isn't something you're born into. It's something you build, slowly, painfully, and honestly. Chapter 4, The Value of Suffering. But not all suffering is equal. Mark Manson says that what we suffer for and how we interpret that suffering defines the quality of our life. The meaning behind pain. You can't avoid pain. But pain with purpose is different from pain without meaning. Two people can experience the same event, but suffer differently based on what it means to them. Example: one person loses a job and feels hopeless. Another sees it as a chance to restart. The difference isn't in what happened. It's in the values behind how they interpret it. Values define your suffering. Our values determine the metrics by which we measure ourselves and everyone else. If you measure your worth by wealth, looks, or popularity, then your suffering will feel constant and empty. But if you value honesty, humility, growth, or responsibility, even painful moments can feel meaningful. Bad values versus good values. Manson divides values into two categories. Bad values, superficial, based on external approval, not under your control. Examples: being liked by everyone, always feeling good, never failing. Good values, reality-based, socially constructive, immediate and controllable. Examples: being honest, taking responsibility, improving yourself. When you suffer for bad values, the pain is destructive. When you suffer for good values, the pain helps you grow. We always choose what to value. You might not control what happens to you, but you always control what it means to you. You always choose the standard by which you judge success and failure, and that choice shapes your entire life. The takeaway: suffering is inevitable, but how you suffer and why is up to you. If you suffer for things that matter, you will find strength. If you suffer for shallow things, the pain will feel endless and pointless. Choose better values, and your suffering becomes a path, not a prison. Chapter 5, You're Always Choosing. You don't control everything that happens in your life. You didn't choose where you were born. You didn't choose your genetics. You didn't choose all the bad things that happened to you. But Mark Manson makes one thing very clear. You are always choosing how to respond. Responsibility versus fault. Manson draws an important line between fault and responsibility. He says, fault is past tense. Responsibility is present tense. Something might not be your fault, but it's still your responsibility. If someone crashes into your car, it's not your fault. But fixing your car, dealing with insurance, and handling the aftermath, that's your responsibility. Life works the same way. Victim thinking is easy, but it's a trap. When you constantly blame others for your problems, you give up your power. You tell yourself, I didn't choose this, so I don't have to deal with it. But avoiding responsibility doesn't make your problems go away. It just keeps you stuck. Taking responsibility doesn't mean blaming yourself for everything. It means owning your response. That's how real change begins. Freedom through responsibility. Manson argues that freedom is not the absence of responsibility. It's the ability to choose what you're responsible for. When you avoid responsibility, you're not free. You're dependent on others, on circumstances, on luck. But when you say, this is my problem to handle, even if it's unfair, you become stronger. That mindset creates confidence, resilience, and long-term peace. Every moment is a choice. Every day you are choosing what to focus on, what to care about, what meaning to give to your experience, what standard you judge yourself by. And those choices shape the outcome of your life more than anything else. You might not realize it, but inaction is also a choice. Choosing not to decide is still a decision. The takeaway: you are always choosing, whether you accept it or not. You can choose to take responsibility or blame. You can choose to grow or avoid. You can choose better values or keep repeating pain. You don't get to control everything in life, but you do control your response. And that makes all the difference. Chapter 6. You're wrong about everything, but so am I. We all like to think we're right. We believe our opinions are correct. We trust our memories. We think our views on the world are solid and true. But Mark Manson says, we're all wrong, all the time. And that's not a weakness. It's the beginning of growth. Certainty is dangerous. Manson explains that being certain, always believing you're right, is not a strength. It's a form of fear. Certainty closes you off. It makes you defensive. It stops you from asking questions, from listening, from learning. The mind that's sure of itself stops growing. Everything you know is temporary. Manson gives a personal example. Looking back, many things he once believed about relationship success, happiness, turn out to be wrong. And that will happen again. Your current beliefs might feel correct, but they will evolve. And that's normal. Growth is not about clinging to what you know. It's about updating what you believe as you gain experience. The value of being wrong. When you accept that you're wrong, or that you might be, you become open. You start asking better questions. You seek real understanding instead of just defending your viewpoint. It takes courage to admit you're wrong, but it also gives you the power to improve. The maturity curve. Manson introduces an idea. At first, you're wrong and you don't know it. Then, you realize you were wrong. Eventually, you accept that you're always going to be wrong. Just hopefully less wrong than before. This is what maturity looks like. You stop chasing certainty. And instead, you focus on becoming less wrong over time. Changing yourself means questioning yourself. Real personal development begins when you question your assumptions, your reactions, your values, your beliefs about success, love, and purpose. And when you find you were wrong, you don't resist. You adapt. The takeaway: you are wrong. So am I. So is everyone else. The goal isn't to be right all the time. It's to get less wrong, slowly and honestly. The more you embrace uncertainty, the more you grow. Stop trying to be right. Start trying to understand. Chapter 7. Failure is the way forward. Most people avoid failure. We're taught that failure is something to fear, something that means we're not good enough. But Mark Manson says, failure isn't the opposite of success. It's the path to it. The do something principle. Manson introduces a concept called the do something principle. Most people think motivation comes first. They wait to feel inspired, then they act. But that rarely works. Action, inspiration, motivation. You take action first, no matter how small. That action leads to insight, momentum, and eventually motivation. Waiting to feel ready is a trap. Start now. Readiness comes later. Success comes from repeated failure. Everything worthwhile comes through a process of failure and adjustment. You try. You fail. You learn. You try again better. This is how skills are built, relationships improve, and habits form. The people you admire didn't succeed without failure. They succeeded because they kept going through failure. Pain is feedback. Manson explains. Failure hurts. It brings discomfort, embarrassment, frustration. But pain is useful, it's feedback. It tells you what's not working. It shows you what needs to change. You can ignore it, or you can listen and grow. Avoiding pain only delays progress. You can't eliminate mistakes, only manage them. There's no such thing as a perfect plan. No decision comes with zero risk. No action is guaranteed to work. But you don't need perfection. You just need to keep moving and correct as you go. The takeaway. Failure is not a problem to be avoided. It's the process you must go through. Start before you're ready. Act without needing motivation. Fail, adjust, repeat. This is how real progress happens. Don't wait for confidence. Don't wait for clarity. Don't wait to feel ready. Start and let failure guide you forward. Chapter 8. The importance of saying no. We often think that happiness comes from freedom, from having options, flexibility, and endless opportunities. But Mark Manson says, real freedom comes from commitment. And commitment starts with learning to say no. Why saying no matters. You can't say yes to everything. Every yes to one thing is a no to something else. If you avoid saying no, you avoid making hard choices. You avoid taking a stand. You avoid building anything meaningful. Clarity in life requires limits. Choosing what to care about. The more F***CKs you give about everything, the less value each one has. If you say yes to every opportunity, idea, or person, you're not truly choosing anything. Saying no is how you define your priorities. It's how you choose what matters and what doesn't. Relationships need boundaries. Manson shares a personal story from his own relationship. He explains that healthy relationships are built on boundaries, not avoidance. People often stay in bad relationships because they fear saying no. They fear conflict, rejection, or being alone. But relationships only work when both people are willing to say, this is what I need. This is what I will not accept. Without boundaries, there's no respect. And without respect, love breaks down. Rejection is necessary. Saying no means rejecting people, ideas, and paths that aren't aligned with your values. That's not cruel. That's honest. You can't grow without leaving things behind. The more you define what you don't want, the closer you get to what truly matters. The takeaway. You must say no to distractions, to people who drain you, to values that don't serve you, to anything that doesn't align with your priorities. Saying no is how you protect your limited time, energy, and focus. In life, you don't find meaning by saying yes to everything. You find it by committing, and committing means saying no to almost everything else. Chapter 9. And then you die. No matter what you do, how hard you work, or how much you accomplish, you will die. This is not meant to depress you. It's meant to clarify everything. Mark Manson ends the book by confronting the one truth we all try to ignore. Life is finite. Death is guaranteed. Why death gives life meaning? If you live forever, nothing would matter. Time would be unlimited. Every experience could be delayed. Every moment could be wasted without consequence. But death puts a limit on your time. And that limit gives value to everything you do. Your time, your energy, your focus, all become meaningful because they will end. Legacy and values. Manson tells a story of his friend Josh, someone who died young, unexpectedly. Josh's death forced Manson to question the meaning of life and the point of all our striving. The truth he landed on is this. You can't control how long you live, but you can choose how you live and what you leave behind. The only real legacy is how your values shape the lives of others. What do you leave behind? You won't be remembered for your wealth, titles, or social media presence. You'll be remembered for how you lived, what you stood for, how you treated people, what you gave to the world. If your values are strong, they will outlast you. Freedom through mortality. Most people fear death, but Manson suggests that remembering you will die actually brings freedom. When you accept death, you stop wasting time. You stop living for approval. You stop giving energy to things that don't matter. You start asking, what am I really doing this for? What legacy am I building? What will still matter when I'm gone? The takeaway: you're going to die. And that's exactly why your life matters. When you choose values that are bigger than yourself, when you live with honesty, responsibility, and purpose, you create meaning that lasts beyond your lifetime. Everything ends. That's what gives it value. Live accordingly. Give fewer F***ks, but give them to the right things. Accept discomfort. Embrace responsibility. You don't have to be exceptional. You just have to be real. Growth is painful, but worth it. Which truth hit you the hardest? Drop it in the comments. Like if you needed this real talk. Subscribe for more brutally honest book wisdom every week. This was Beyond the Cover. Until next time, stop chasing happiness and start choosing your struggle.